Ashutosh. Welcome to the Minute series. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing great, Ansh. How about you?
Yeah, bro, I'm doing well. I just came back from my university yesterday and will be spending my new year here at home. So, yeah, what about you? How's work? How is Bangalore treating you?
Bangalore is generally good apart from the fact that there's a lot of traffic. But good thing about these year ends is that traffic settles down because most of the offices which operate under the US timings, tend to actually like basically when once the US offices are closed, here everything in India goes cold. So tech freezes and all those kind of stuff happens, and traffic settles down. That's the best part. So yeah.
Makes sense, makes sense. Like, even there at Kharagpur, it's almost empty now. The hostels are empty and everyone's back home. So, yeah, pretty good time of the year. And then New Year's coming up. Any plans for Christmas, by the way? Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, bro. No plans as such. We do have some plum cakes, and yeah, that's all. Chilling with the friends that I have in my flat. That's all.
Okay, okay. So, flatmate day. Okay, got it, got it. Cool, bro. Let's get into the interview real quick. Let's just start by giving the audience a brief about your background and your journey this far. So, could you tell us about what drives your passion for like connecting with people and decoding market dynamics? Because I know that you've been a huge fan of marketing and you've been in that space for quite long. So, if you could tell us something about it.
So you have to go back a bit in time if you want to, get a good
Mm-hmm.
insight on why I actually developed this, whole interest.
Mm-hmm.
So back in the day when I was in class 8, 9, like every other guy, who was slightly into science, I also wanted to be a scientist.
Okay.
But soon, when class 11th came, I realized that science is something that is of course amazing, like no doubt, hands down, it's the best thing that has ever happened to humanity. But then there is something that needs to go hand in hand with all the innovation that's going on, and that's actually being able to convert that innovation into something which is, which can serve the society, and not just that, and then presenting it to the society so that it can be of real use and people can start actually adopting things.
Right.
So crucial, piece in the puzzle of this whole, innovation to product placement to, actually people adopting the technology is of course marketing. Marketing, very simply put, in a layman's term, is nothing but a way of communicating what you've got and why is it helpful for someone.
Mhm.
And the idea itself amazed me because imagine what kind of technology goes into like building a mobile phone. Like of course there's most people who use it have no clue about it, but we
Mhm.
still know which phone is better for me, which phone I need to, buy next time I go out in the market. Why is my phone getting slow? Because RAM, I have a lower RAM phone and I want a higher RAM phone, etc., etc.
Right.
So how is that without knowing the technical aspects of this devices that we have in our hands? We're able to tell which is better, what I need. It's nothing but marketing, and that's the most amazing part for me about marketing. And as a child, when I first was exposed to these ideas, this is what initially drawed me towards the whole idea of looking at marketing as an option, as a career option. And I think so far I have learned a great deal about how we communicate, what to communicate, and what does that transpires when customer hears it. So yeah, that's all.
Understood, understood. So quite interesting. And you were saying that you wanted to get into science, and you were very curious about it as a class 11 student, right? But then you gradually shifted towards marketing. So I've also seen in your profile that there was a program called NYAS, if I'm not wrong. So could you like give us a brief on that, like very quick?
Yeah, so basically, both the your first question and the whole thing about NYAS is quite connected. So back in class 11th, I was part of a program called New York Academy of Sciences Junior Academy program.
Okay.
and it was essentially a invite only community of students where once you are part of this community, you are added to a platform called Launchpad, from where you're supposed to participate in one challenge every year. So that is like a bare minimum. You can participate in more challenges, but one challenge per year is a bare minimum to keep your membership. And what happens there is you sort of find your team there. They have a discussion forum, etc., etc., where you find your team, and then you work on these global challenges and propose solutions using STEM. So, one of the interesting discoveries that I made back in the day was, while there was a whole lot of fuss about, who has created the best, project, or who has, sort of built the best solution for that global challenge. Uh, the whole idea of winning that competition was impossible without being able to present it properly,
Mm-hmm.
you know
Mm-hmm.
without being able to communicate what exactly you have done. And in NYAS, that particular program had for each of the challenges there are predefined deliverables, like deliverable 1, deliverable 2, deliverable 3,
Okay.
and these deliverables need to go in specific time. So let's say the whole challenge spans for a 4-month period, so you
Mm-hmm.
need to submit deliverable 1 in, let's say, first 2 weeks, and then in the following 4 weeks you submit the next deliverable. And each
Right.
of these deliverables establish a particular part of where you are in the process, and give your judges the idea of what is the whole journey that you've taken to get where you want to get. And the final submission were, of course, like a executive summary and a presentation, and like a whole research paper style submission that we had to make.
Okay.
But I never won a competition, never won a challenge there,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
essentially. But one of the key takeaways was, I used to look at the winning team's pitch decks and how they presented ideas, and not just the final submissions, but even in the deliverables, how they have presented their work. It was fabulous. It is like you can just, skim through the whole document. You'll know exactly what they're doing and what they're going for. While
Right.
the documents that we used to make back in the day were very detail oriented, were very much into science stuff. We would talk about a lot of science there, but
Mm-hmm.
were not appealing to anyone's eyes. So I think one of the major reasons that we would never succeed, even if we had like a good idea on the plate, would be the reason that we had poor presentation. And that also established the groundwork for why you need marketing.
Makes sense. Makes sense. I think it also, takes from the famous Hindi quote like "Jo dikhta hai wahi bikta hai," right? So, I think marketing has a lot to do with how you shape people's opinion about a particular product or a particular service. And
Exactly.
yeah, I definitely agree. Yeah.
So one anecdote here would be that people often take marketing to be sales, because
Okay.
even if you go to internshala or any of these platforms, so they'll say this is a marketing internship, and you might end up actually doing cold outreach to people, and
That's right. Yeah.
uh,
Correct.
whole lot of things, which gives the negative perception of what marketing is.
Right.
People might think it's all about sales, but marketing has very less to do with sales. Sales as a vertical is a whole different thing, which has, of course, it has something to do with marketing, but again, sales is not marketing, and marketing is not sales. They go
Correct.
hand in hand, but they're not the same thing. And marketing has so many aspects. I recently was looking through one of my LinkedIn feeds, and one post showed up. I'll share it with you if you want to. It had a very interesting, comparison that, people think marketing is all about selling products, but it has so many verticals. SEO is marketing, performance marketing, ads that you run is marketing. The on the product, if you put something and what it means, it's also a form of marketing.
Correct.
What will the audience take away from a particular, looking at a particular picture that you put, on maybe a newspaper article that is published about your product. Everything is marketing, so
Right.
that is more to do with marketing than sales. So yeah.
Correct. Correct. I think makes sense. In fact, the distinction between marketing and sales, it is not that distinct as in for people like us. In fact, I was also looking for marketing and sales in marketing internships specifically when I was in my first and second year of college, and I distinctly remember uh, being in the same loophole. I was selected for some random marketing internship, and then they call you on a WhatsApp group, and then they do make you do cold calls. I think, yeah, that has swayed public opinion towards a more negative side, but I think, yeah, it provides a lot more clarity. You know what you just said. Marketing is definitely a contributor to sales, but again, definitely a very distinct vertical in itself. So yeah, that does make sense. Uh, I was going through a LinkedIn profile, and you've mentioned in your LinkedIn profile that one particular line, in fact, that catches my attention was that profits should serve a larger purpose. Although, like, of course, I'm sure a lot of people agree with that, but then I would like you to elaborate on how this perspective shapes the work which you do.
So, one thing I've realized over time is that, of course, there's a backstory to it also. So, I never was a guy was into sustainability. As a word, sustainability, I might have known sustainability, what it means, etc., etc. But
Hmm.
it was just a word in the dictionary, or just a word in my vocabulary that I would use randomly here and there. But the true meaning of sustainability came to me when I worked at an internship at Ecovisor, where I was primarily tasked as a sustainability research intern, because that was my first internship of my whole life. So it
Okay.
was pretty daunting, but and I had no experience with research per se.
Okay.
So when I started internship, I slowly discovered how you know I don't know what word to use here, but how scary these businesses operate. Like, the way that they have been building profits, while
Hmm.
we know a lot of these big companies, how they are making big bucks at the stock market, how they're uh, everything is just great, everything great about them, and they also have a sustainable product line, that they will pitch to you, that one of these shoes are made by recycling ocean plastic, microplastic, and
Hmm.
these range of clothes are made by recycled bottle caps, etc., etc. But behind this all hunky dory greenwashing that you call, what exactly lies is a dark, grim face of organizations, and how they actually exploit the not just the environment, but also us as a society. Like, one
Hmm.
prime example would be, I'm not sure if I should name brands here, but still, like, one of the famous luxury brands out there who sells like purses and a lot of luxury materials for women.
Okay.
They make they the I think the there was a police raid in one of their sites,
Hmm.
uh, somewhere in Europe. I'll not name the place,
Okay.
and they found a lot of you know uh, Bangladeshi laborers being trapped there, and with their passports taken away while they were sort of doing you know more like a bonded labor there. And each
Okay.
of those bags maybe cost them somewhere around a 6 or 7,000 rupees, while they
Hmm.
sell it here in India at somewhere around like a lakh or 2 lakh. So
Okay.
these, when faced with these realities, it shaped my opinion towards what exactly profit should mean,
Hmm.
and how exactly you should actually be, channeling. If you're benefiting from the society, it is your duty to give something back to it. As simple
Okay.
as that. And one prime example for this would be how Tatas operate in India.
Hmm.
And that's something that I've realized over time. As for how is it going, how am I incorporating that in my work? Honestly speaking, uh, you know, I could not point into one thing and say, okay, this is what I do to be more sustainable. But
Mhm.
in general, uh, after being faced with all those realities of how world functions, I have stopped pursuing from some of these big brands, and I have also started to look at the carbon footprints of things that I actually consume in my day-to-day life.
Right.
Uh, that's something more on the personal side. Professionally, I am not in yet in a position where I could maybe make a difference, but I hope one day if I am able to influence decisions that actually make the world more sustainable, I'll definitely play my part there.
Makes sense. I mean, sure, charity definitely begins at home, and like even the smallest of steps, I'm sure they'll add up. And looking at your career trajectory, I'm pretty sure that you are sure to make an impact someday. Uh, so that brings me to the point that you said that you were working at Ecovisor, right? So that was a startup, and it was your first internship. So was that when you started your journey in Reddit? Because I know that you have experience growing Reddit communities and scaling them. So is that when you started Reddit?
That's exactly when I was actually working with Reddit. So as I said, I started my internship at Ecovisor with as a research intern. Essentially, I had to look for certifications that different brands have, and what are, if there's a brand that is doing greenwashing, I have to flag the same, etc., etc.
Hmm.
So that is how it was going. But I noticed something that this whole task is very monotonous, and involved a lot of stuff that could potentially be automated. And I did some good work there on automating this whole infrastructure.
Okay.
And eventually, I was tasked with building a Reddit community. Though
Mhm.
initially, the purpose of Reddit community was to gather feedback on what we are building. So Reddit is, as it is known by most of the people, is the most you know it is as raw as it can get in terms of feedback that you can get,
Correct.
because
Correct.
even the anonymity that you have there, people are mostly very open about their opinions, and they're very vocal about what they want, what they absolutely don't want. So
Right.
initially I went there trying to gather some feedback, but the challenge I was faced with most of the times was of course self promotion or similar things are not really entertained in Reddit, and hence I used to get flagged by the moderators, and I was always banned in a couple of days of starting to ask questions.
Okay.
So uh, from there stemmed the idea of why not make a community myself where I have my own people. I
Hmm.
can ask them whatever feedback I want. At the same time, maybe curate like an audience for my product in future whenever it's ready.
Right.
Uh, Although when I first started, I named my community with the company's name that I was working for, and for the first 3 months, I had no progress. So
Okay.
its name was, I named it back then. Ecovisor was Beeson, so I named it Beeson, and Beeson community hardly had 200 members in 3 months, and quite disheartening. Even though I was posting constantly, it didn't yield much. That led to me discovering one of the fundamentals of building a Reddit community, that is never do branding where it is not necessary.
Okay.
Branding, as soon as you tag yourself or associate yourself with a particular brand or a particular organization, people tend to suspect that you are here to just sell them something,
Right.
and that is not something that you would want to do when you're trying to get unfiltered feedback.
Correct.
So then I started a new community which was not branded. It was a community which was purely named around conscious consumerism. And that community, when I started to grow it, it showed significant promise from the get going. Like the first few posts only, when I started posting, I had more traction that I was getting when it was named with a brand name. And eventually I also noticed that every community has a consciousness of its own. Consciousness is a big word, but still I use that. Every
Hmm.
community has a consciousness of its own. So once you get to the community, you can if you just filter the top post there, you would see there's a resonating theme or a resonating idea about each of these communities,
Right.
which majority of these people agree with.
Hmm.
So the key to actually, getting their attention or getting to interact with you is talking as one of them.
Right.
So what I started doing was I started creating these posts,
Hmm.
and then I used to cross post these Reddit posts into several different communities, and each of these posts had value in it. Of course, Reddit is a value driven community. If you don't put any value to it, if it's just a generic grant,
Hmm.
you are not gonna get anything.
Right.
So I used to draft these posts, and with each of the posts, it would align with one of the core principles of the communities where I want to cross post it. And once I cross post it there, a chunk of audience from that community would start flowing into my own community.
Right.
And this worked fabulously for me over a span of next 6 months,
Hmm.
not next 6 months, maybe next 4 and 4.5, 5 months. I was able to gather 10,000 members into the community. I think in sustainability space specifically, it
Hmm.
is not one of the bigger communities, but
Right.
is a sizable chunk. Like if you look at right now, if you open the Reddit page, it shows top 5% of Reddit
Okay.
uh, in that particular space.
I mean,
So,
yeah, sure. I mean, it's a niche area as well, right? So
yep,
I think even a 10K community is like huge. It's a sizable chunk of the market. I'm sure. Um,
yep,
so like, see, this is after you started cross posting, right?
yes.
So you'd say that cross posting is like a super good way of growing your community,
Cross posting is the basic build. Like I was cross posting anyway, even before. Like cross posting is the only way you can get any other community to notice your community.
right?
Cross posting essentially means posting something on your community and
Hmm.
posting it to a different community, so that you are able to gain attention from the folks of the other community. So
Right.
cross posting is like the ABC of building a Reddit community.
Hmm.
But what you are cross posting, how is that in line with what that community talks about, and how is that adding value, is what goes into is what makes the difference for you to maybe get 2 members from that community or 200 members from that community into your community.
Got it. But like, so my question would be that, let's say you reach a particular level. Let's say in your case, it was 10,000 people strong community. So then, since you had initially built it with the idea of getting feedback, and uh, so do you convert this community into a platform where you can do marketing, or do you just keep it for feedback? So there's no direct revenue coming in from the community. Is that so? Or if you do convert it to a revenue making any sort of revenue coming in from the community, how do you do it? How do you go from a completely value driven community to a more revenue generating community of sorts?
I would say, given my experience, so
Mhm.
I have not built a community which is behind a paywall. That is beyond my forte of expertise.
But that
But
do exist, right? There are
the
communities. Okay.
so I was saying that I do have a experience in terms of the communities that I have paid for,
Okay.
and I have built a community myself. So I can
Mhm.
maybe connect the dots for you here
Yeah.
to maybe give you a slight anecdote as to what I think would work if you ever want to convert a community which is purely value driven into more revenue generating community.
Right.
So step one would be, right now everything is uh, let's say totally dependent on the shared value that the community has. like you know
Mhm.
like everyone has some knowledge, they're posting about it, and you're basically gathering more and more information, and people are getting value out of it. You've created a value system. Now you as a community manager need to identify the nodes being units, or the people out there in the community which are adding the most value into it. So you
Right.
will find 4 to 5 individuals. This is the case with like the 80-20 principle of the universal 80-20 principle. So you'll of course find in the whoever is making engagement in those community, 80% of it would be a lot of clutter or people just trying to self promote or talking about general things, etc., etc., etc. But you
Mm-hmm.
will find a tiny segment, which is maybe the 20% of your audience,
Mm-hmm.
where you will find a like a genuine passion for you know like the particular topic you're talking about, and they will be adding the most value to the whole community, and most of the value of the community comes from those people. You
Right.
need to identify those folks, approach them, maybe ask them to join hands with you, show them the vision that you have. Hopefully they'll be on board. For the most part of it, if it is Reddit particularly,
Mm.
it is hard because people believe information should be available for free.
Right.
So monetizing information per se, or asking people that okay, you only post if you get paid, would not be something that your audience would be interested in, because the whole point of them being in Reddit and not being in a LinkedIn or not selling a course is that they believe that information should be readily available.
Correct.
So if you want to monetize this community, it is always a better idea to go about a product which is not the value in the community itself, but whatever value is there in the community, the product is derived from it. Let's say a good example would be, because this might get a little confusing, so
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you a good example for this. So a good example would be, if you have a community which is centered around sustainability,
Okay.
it is not a good idea to maybe monetize people posting about sustainability or sustainable brands or ranting about brands. But it is
Mm-hmm.
of course a good idea to post create a product, let's say a directory of sustainable brands where you can look up those brands and see, compare and contrast different brands and see what is the best sustainable option available in a particular, and give them some filters, etc., etc.,
Right.
and then pitching that tool to that community. And whoever wants to pay, whoever wants to jump into that product, great. And if they don't want to, that is also great. It is fine, it is completely up to them. But if you force them to pay, then you'll not have a community in the first place to begin with, because people will start leaving as soon as you put a paywall up there.
Right.
So it should not be a forced conversion, or you'll see your community, whatever you have built over time, getting shattered. So products are a good way to monetize your community. Building products around the central theme of the community is the best way to do it.
Right.
As for paid communities, then that is like a whole different thing. I have only joined one paid community, which I feel is worth every penny.
Okay.
And what was the key takeaway from that community was that everything that they shared about marketing and related things were very actionable. So I could just pick up certain posts from those communities and start implementing it in my business, in my professional life, in my personal life, and I would see a change. And what they used to do in that community is, at the end of every month, they would collect all the best ideas that were being circulated through the community, and
Right.
then maybe make a newsletter of it and send it out to a lot of people out there who are part of the community. So that was a whole different thing. That kind of value generation is only possible if you are able to create a crowd of professionals, who
Makes
can give
sense.
you very actionable insights. So if
Makes
you're
sense.
able to do that, good thing. Otherwise, product is the best way to go about it if you're talking about general crowd.
Got it. So I think, okay, so like to summarize, it's mostly creating a product that sort of revolves around the central theme of your community, and so that it doesn't really look like a sort of paid promotion to the community, and it still adds value. And people are sort of, they have a choice of whether or not they want to jump on board, or they want to let the opportunity pass. Got it. Um,
Exactly. Yep.
so like again, I was stalking you on LinkedIn, and I noticed that there was a sudden jump, and you shifted your focus slightly towards IT, and you had also done an internship at Caterpillar, which is, by the way, very cool because I know it's a huge, huge company. So could you tell us something about how you got that internship at Caterpillar and what were the key takeaways from it? We won't spend much time here because I know that you're more of a marketing guy. So, if you want to just go through the IT internship quickly, yeah, go ahead.
Uh, Internship at Caterpillar was more of a chance than me actually actively pursuing it. Given you already said that I'm more of a marketing guy,
Yeah.
so during a particular period in my third year, I no not exactly third year. I think fourth year, starting of the fourth year, I was kind of interested into exploring more of IT because I thought, okay, marketing is good, but maybe given I'm a CSC student, I should also explore some degree of how the IT industries work here. So I
Right.
applied to a bunch of jobs, and the process is pretty simple. They'll ask, did you have an OA that you have to go through, and after the OA, you'll have a simple interview where basic DSA questions are asked. As for the experience inside Caterpillar, it is great. Caterpillar is a great organization, a great place to work. In terms of work culture, in terms of what they have to offer, it is great. I would say their salaries might not, for the freshers particularly, might not be at uh, you know that lucrative, given nowadays everyone is expecting a maybe a
Right.
15, 16 package, but
Right.
they give somewhere around 8ish, which
Okay.
is decent, but you will learn a lot
Mm-hmm.
given the complicated infrastructure that they work on. They are one of the biggest corporations out there. They are one of the Fortune 500s, and they do like only the office that I was working in Bangalore.
Yeah.
I work under I basically I got an internship under you know product supply and logistics division, PSLD
Okay.
division, which
Okay.
is essentially responsible for maintaining the logistics of all the parts that are available, because Caterpillar, is a big company in
Right.
mining and related equipment.
Yeah.
So you cannot afford, like, as a mine owner, you cannot afford to maybe have a downtime of 3 days or 4 days when your mining equipment is down.
Right.
So we as a company need to have a very robust supply chain of maintaining the spare parts across the globe, so that we can service those, sort of service those equipment as soon as possible. And we alone from that PSLD division used to make some $21 billion of business annually,
Okay. Okay.
because that's the kind of scale that Caterpillar operates in. And it is wonderful to see how systems at scale operate. One of the key learnings for me from Caterpillar would be that just looking at the sheer volume of data that is available there, and how these complicated systems interact with each other. They primarily operate in under SAP, like most companies out there.
Right.
uh, and it was a great experience. I particularly was tasked under the business excellence team.
Okay.
As cool it sounds, it's the most boring team in PSLD division.
Okay.
Business excellence team is all about ensuring that business systems are up and running.
Okay.
So we are more of the maintenance people. But there are cool teams, data analytics teams, and computer vision team is also there, because they have a lot of they're working 24/7, thinking about how they can reduce the cost. So there's data analytics going there. They're 24/7 thinking about how to automate these warehouses. So there's
Okay.
some degree of computer vision and automation and all those things going there. So it's a great experience overall.
So I think like the computer vision part is more of a very tech savvy, core, hardcore tech aspect of like Caterpillar, right? Um, Makes sense. How long was this internship?
This is initially intended for a 3-month span, but I got an extension given the work that I've done
Okay.
in quote unquote business excellence team,
Okay.
and I got a extension of 3 more months. So I did an internship for 6 months, but for most people who joined there, it was a 3-month internship.
Understood. Understood. Makes sense, man. And like, even though you're such a hardcore, marketing guy, still, seeing that you've cracked an internship at Caterpillar is like super super cool. So like, and I've also noticed that is there anything in particular, because see, you're from a CS background, right? And cracking an internship at Caterpillar, I'm sure like it's internship season right now. So any quick tips for people who are trying to search and apply for internships, like just a very quick tip that you would want to give them.
I am not sure if I'm the best person, but I'll just tell you this, that be patient in terms of cracking in companies. Sometimes it's not your fault that you don't get through the resume shortlisting part.
Right.
It's There's a fair amount of luck that goes into getting an internship.
Hmm.
As far as actionable tips are concerned, I would say best thing would be to wherever you are applying, you should be well researched about what exactly they look for when they shortlist candidates. One good way of going about it would be look for previous interns of the same company. This would be a difficult thing to achieve, but if you can, then maybe get them to show you the resume that they submitted for it, because
Correct.
a large part of going through the process is getting your resume shortlisted. After that, things are still under your control.
Right.
Before that, it is just sheer luck.
Correct.
So I think that would be a good thing if you can get hands on someone's resume that was shortlisted.
Hmm.
And again, just hang in tight, don't be overwhelmed. And yeah, it is a very strenuous process to get an internship. Who would know
I,
better than us?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, LinkedIn could be like a super good place to reach out to people and, just ask them, just send a polite message and be like, you know what, I'm applying for the company that you're working for right now, and I'd be just super grateful, if you could just maybe review my resume or share your resume, which I can take reference from, or anything else that you would want me to know, right? So, um,
Mhm.
LinkedIn is a damn good resource for that. Agreed. So yeah, coming back to the marketing side of things and the product management side of things, let's come back and skip to the present where you're working at Kapiva, if I'm not wrong, right? So first of all, just tell us about something about Kapiva. What is the company about? I know that it's something related to FMCG, and you're currently working at a D2C sales and analytics position. But then I'd like to hear more from you.
Okay, so here at Kapiva, I work as a, of course, as you called it out, I'm a data analyst for the acquisitions team, D2C acquisitions team.
Right.
And as for what Kapiva does, Kapiva's vision is around making Ayurveda accessible for millennials.
Okay.
So, all these Ayurveda brands out there, they seem like, all these traditional people. It is something that we would all only associate with old people, or maybe our grandfathers, or our, the older segment of of the strata of the population would mostly engage with, maybe our parents,
Right.
but not our elder sisters or elder brothers. They might not be very keen to going towards Ayurveda.
Mhm.
So Kapiva is driven by the mission to bring Ayurveda to the millennials,
Okay.
and primarily they have product portfolios around men's health. They have a product portfolio around chronic diseases like BP and diabetes, etc., etc.
Mhm.
And they're trying to still develop their product portfolio, which is focused around beauty and personal care, which is not that big of a hit for now.
Okay.
So generally speaking, Kapiva has shown phenomenal promise and growth in the past 2 years,
Mhm.
and which was primarily driven by a lot of efforts that they have put into growing their D2C segment. Right now, we do multi-channel sales. It is not just the D2C market that we are actually looking towards. D2C is there. We have the marketplace. We are available in all major marketplaces,
Mhm.
and we have also entered the quick commerce and offline segments.
Okay.
So we are right now in the process of building that offline network of retailers, distributors, etc., etc., in several of these big cities, so that we can be available across all the shops out there in an offline setup. So that is what is going into Kapiva right now.
Got it.
And as FMCG segment,
Uh-huh.
FMCG segment as a whole is quite an interesting segment because it is driven by a lot of things, which is around price. And let's say you want like a pack of bread or some dal or something on those lines.
Mhm.
So you might not want to get this particular brand ka dal or this particular brand ka bread. So
Right.
oftentimes if you walk into a shop, you look at let's say there's a Britannia, there's a some other brands are there, like maybe let's not take bread, let's take butter for example, because I'm not able to remember names of bread brands.
Yeah.
Anyways, for butter there's Amul, there's Nandini here in Karnataka, and
Okay.
there are like mother's milk or something, Milky Mist is there. There are
Okay.
so many options, and you are fine with most of it. Like of course you do might have a preference, but if it is
Mhm.
not available, you might go for the other ones. It is not something you're very rigid about, generally speaking. There
Right.
are some people who are, of course, focused on one particular brand.
Mhm.
So my understanding, and it is a very limited understanding given I am fairly new to the system. I have only spent 1 year in this whole setup,
Mhm.
and as far as my understanding goes, uh, price is a very big lever when it comes to FMCG as a sector,
Right.
and how you're gonna source it as cheap as possible, and how you're gonna get it to the end consumer in as less cost as possible is something which is uh, fundamental to growing a business in this particular domain, in this
Mhm.
particular sector.
Mhm.
And of course, distribution is the ABC of any business out there. So
Right.
building that distribution, across channel distribution, is something that would take a lot of effort for anyone who is new into the segment and wants to sort of maybe build a business which is as big as that of Kapiva's for now.
Right.
So we are not FMCG because we are not selling, the generic FMCG products. We slightly align into the FMCG sector, but we are more of a Ayurveda company. I would like to brand it like that.
Okay.
And the perks of being in the this particular segment is that you are somewhere in between pharma and FMCG.
Mhm. Mhm.
Uh, so you are creating, and you know what Kapiva is aiming to do is it's trying to bring standardization in the whole Ayurveda industry. Of course,
Right.
there is standardization. Of course, Patanjali, like the huge, bigger players like Patanjali and all, they are doing good work there.
Mhm.
But so we are trying to get patented molecules to the last bit so that we can give a uniform experience across our products.
Right.
And as far as my learning as data analyst at Kapiva goes, it
Mhm.
primarily revolves around marketing funnels. Of course, like marketing is something that has not left me throughout my career, and it is still with me, even though I work as a data analyst technically. But
Yeah.
I work as a data analyst for a team which has everything to do with marketing funnels.
Got
So
it.
I am the data analyst for performance marketing team.
Okay.
So performance marketing, as you know, is running ads in Google, Meta, Google, Facebook, etc., etc.
Right.
Uh, it's a phenomenal journey as far as my understanding of how these funnels work goes, because uh, we all might have heard about the marketing funnel, that top of the funnel, middle of the funnel,
Right.
bottom of the funnel, and a conversion. That
Right.
is as crudely as you could put it, but to see it in action is a amazing experience in general. There's something called roof of the funnel as well. That's one discovery I made. So uh, I'm not sure if you want me to go into detail about what are my specific learnings in Kapiva, but if
Mhm.
I were to generalize these learnings, it would
Uh-huh.
be uh, I would categorize them as: one is business specific learning as to how do you make a company profitable, like I see how Kapiva approaches profitability. So
Mm-hmm.
different products have different margins, and different given the different margins and different costs of acquisition, and the different strategies that they use to market it. Uh, for every product portfolio to be profitable, you will have to get the math right,
Right.
and there are some ways they get that math right for particular products. That
Mm-hmm.
is one segment of learning. Second segment of learning is how amazing the performance marketing funnels are, how Facebook as an advertising platform works, how Google as an advertising platform works, and how you actually on a day-to-day level optimize it. Because looking at performance marketing funnels working at that particular scale is uh, amazing in terms of uh, what all intricacies are there. How something as small as where have you placed your hook in a creative
Mm.
determines whether that creative is gonna well or gonna do worse in the market is amazing. So
Just to clear, what did you mean by where have you placed your book in a creative? I didn't get that.
hook. I meant hook.
Okay, hook in the
So
creative.
every creative has a hook, right? So that's
Okay,
what I
okay,
meant.
yeah, my bad, my bad. Okay, okay, got it. So like overall, it's like sounds super interesting. So what exactly is the role? Could you just tell me the title? What do you call it?
What?
Like what exactly is the role? As in, do you are you a data analyst? What is the specific role?
See,
Uh,
roles in startups are as fuzzy as it can get. So we all know, a data analyst is everything from cleaning data to maybe giving a presentation, doing an RCA,
right.
like root cause analysis. By the way, so RCA is something that was a jargon for me up until I joined this company. And now it's a BAU word. BAU is again business as usual. So so, so generally speaking, my my official title is assistant manager D2C sales,
Okay.
uh, but that is not what I do. I work as data analyst for the acquisitions team. Acquisitions team generally means we my team is focused on bringing new people and getting new people to our brand, creating awareness about our brand, and for a company which is in the growth stage, acquisitions is a crucial thing. So we are about for most of our product portfolios, not all of them, because some products are more retention driven than acquisition driven.
Right.
But for most of our product portfolios, you'll see acquisitions is nearly 70 to 80% of what we earn. So, and we have to go on a spree of acquiring more and more and more and more customers.
So like that's
And
customer acquisition and customer retention, right?
customer acquisitions, yeah, customer acquisition and retention. I have nothing to do with retention as a
Okay.
data analyst. I
Okay.
am primarily concerned with customer acquisition.
Right.
And as like one thing that I discovered about acquiring customers is what is the key metric when you acquire a customer for a company? It is CAC to LTV ratio. What is
Okay.
that? That is customer acquisition cost to lifetime value. So, at what price point have you acquired that customer, and what is the average, lifetime value that the customer is giving you?
Okay.
So, the better this ratio looks, the better you are while acquiring customers. The worse off this ratio looks, the worse off you are in terms of, uh, you know, uh, what you are
Like
doing as.
what's usually a good ratio to have?
That is a very subjective questions. I cannot
Okay.
give you a number as to this is the that is something you need to do the math for particular companies. That math is something that you need to do for a particular product portfolio, because see, 1 is to 10 looks like a good number, but what if you are not including, when you look at CAC to LTV ratio, you're not including something called as the uh, like the cogs, like cost of manufacturing that product, or you're not including logs, cost of shipping that product, etc., etc. So there are so many levels. So
Right.
as a net, all the metrics that you have should make sense for you, that then and only then would a company be profitable.
Makes
So
sense.
one of the interesting anecdotes that I would want to share with everyone would be that you can either be profitable in first transaction,
Mm-hmm.
or you can be be profitable in lifetime value. So how does that work? Let's say there's a product X which you are you know for sure that this product is particularly hard for you to acquire customers,
Okay.
right? So for this product, if you try to get it first transaction positive, let's say we'll take an example. Let's say the cost of manufacturing this product itself is 100 rupees.
Okay.
Okay, and cost of acquiring a customer on this particular product would be, let's say, 30 rupees.
Okay.
So in total, you have already spent 130 rupees on this product.
Right.
For now, we are not taking into account the logistics cost, etc., etc. So let's say 130 rupees is what you have already spent, and you
Right.
want to make a margin of, let's say, even a small 5-10%. Then also you'll have to at least sell it at 135,
Right.
right?
Right.
It is, and for sure, given the markets state that everyone else, let's say all your competitors are selling products at 120, 110, and so on and so forth.
Right.
No one ever buy a product which is priced at 135.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So how do you actually go about selling this product? So ideally, if we look at a layman's term or from an understanding of what I was when I was in back in college, I would say let's not sell this product, or at least try to bring the acquisitions cost down.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not what companies do. What they'll do it, they'll sell it at 110, they'll sell it at a loss
Mm-hmm.
or something like that. The whole point of doing this would be that that 100 rupees is
Mm-hmm.
your cost of manufacturing,
Right.
right? Like I said, you have to necessarily sell it above your cost of manufacturing,
Correct.
because otherwise there's no point in getting the profit.
Mm-hmm.
But next time when you sell it, you have already acquired the customer.
Right.
So first time when you sold a product, you spent additional 30 rupees to acquire
Mm-hmm.
the customer. But
Mm-hmm.
next time that cost is not there.
Okay.
So there's an opportunity for you in the next three transactions to recover that 30 rupees that you've lost.
Right.
Makes sense, right?
Right.
What I'm
Right.
trying to say.
Hmm.
So basically, that's the whole point of it. So first time when you sell a product, you sell it at a loss, and
Mm-hmm.
then you make a profit over the next few transactions. That is what we call as being valuable, or being profitable in lifetime value.
Right.
So that is one way of getting a product to be profitable. Second way would be if you could get it first transaction positive,
Yeah. I
which is
mean,
very
yeah.
straightforward.
If you just if I think if your price is itself at 110, then in that case you could just sell it at the normal price and you'll still be profitable, right?
Yes, exactly,
So that's
exactly the
more of a
method.
unit economics based profitability.
Yes, exactly. So, and see how this CAC to LTV ratio becomes so important. I just told you, right, that the more you spend in that 30 rupees is what you recovered in over the next three transactions when you
Right.
sold the product successfully.
Mm-hmm.
So the more that cost of acquisition is, the more number of transaction you will need for from that particular customer to be in net gain from that particular customer.
Correct.
So that is why it becomes so important for a company to keep their CACs under check, so that their LTV math is mathing. So
Okay. Okay.
otherwise otherwise companies would struggle a lot in terms of recovering that money. And you also know that getting a customer to do successive transaction is a huge deal.
Right.
Retention is something. So that is why some of the product portfolios we scale on retention. For
Mhm.
those, we are profitable in lifetime value, and some of the product portfolios we scale on direct profitability, first transaction positivity.
Right.
So that is the whole one of the most interesting things that I have learned joining Kapiva.
Right. So, like Ashutosh, like if let's say I was a B Tech fresher, right, and I wanted to pursue a path similar to this, like I want to get into marketing and more of the data analysis side of marketing rather than the cold calling side of marketing, then what do you think I as a fresher or as a B Tech student need to know in order to crack such a position?
I think as far as startups, these positions wouldn't exist in, let's say, MNC, of course, right? You will probably get such positions open in startups out there,
Okay.
because yeah, but because big companies already have their systems in place, and if you are
Right.
a data analyst, you are a data analyst, and if you are a let's say a marketing analyst, then you are a marketing analyst. There's
Right.
like no wearing of all hats there.
Hmm.
So, particularly if you are looking to gain some experience in this whole segment,
Yeah.
I would advise to slightly be a generalist in your early career. When I say early
Mhm.
career, it's mostly the internship side of things, and the extracurriculars that you did back in the college life that you had.
Mhm.
So I landed this job because I had understanding of marketing funnels, etc. So in the final round of my interview, I was tasked with market sizing. So I simply the interviewer joined and he asked me, I want to launch this certain product.
Mhm.
This is the category of the product, and you have to inform the management about how much money they have to put into this whole thing. I don't want the number as to what amount of money needs to be put into this particular endeavor, but
Mhm.
I want you to give me an approach as to how you will go about getting this number.
Okay.
That is a market sizing exercise. So
Interesting.
this is something you would only be able to tackle if you are just an IT fresher. Maybe if you have all your life you've just worked with computers, you might not
Mhm.
be best suited for something like this. If you
Mhm.
only know marketing, then also it is something that would be a slightly difficult thing.
Okay.
So there exists a perfect combination of being well read about how market operates, number
Mhm.
one.
Mhm.
Number two, being technically sound about things. You need not to be a specialist or a someone who's very very well versed with technicals. You don't
Mhm.
need that also.
Mhm.
And someone who has a fair share of idea about how businesses operate as far as the marketing side of it goes.
Right.
So a combination of these three would give you a good understanding of uh, you know how exactly you will be able to face such questions.
Mhm.
So I would look at the first level and successively I'll narrow down into a particular segment, and finally I'll try and maybe put a number as to, okay, so you want to target these many people, and given the publicly available data, this is what maybe the approximate uh, mm, amount of cost that the company would incur if they were to enter this particular segment.
Right.
So for this whole exercise, I should have that general awareness. At the same time, I should be able to break this whole problem into smaller chunks, bit by bit, so that I could come down to a particular niche number which I can quote to the interviewer at the end of it.
Right.
So as a whole, everything adds up. Having a general experience is advisable if you want to make a career here.
Mhm.
uh, Being a specialist in one particular field would limit your chances into getting a role, particularly in such dynamic environments of startups, specifically as a data analyst, because data analyst is not data analytics, it's essentially business analytics. And
Mhm.
as long as you don't have business acumen or understanding of how businesses operate, it's pretty hard for you to grasp these concepts, and actually even if you get hired to help your team.
Makes sense. I think that makes sense. So overall, like just being a generalist, I mean, I still remember when we're essentially batchmates, right? So whenever I used to talk to you back in college, I used to see you doing all of this like tech along with marketing, and then definitely I think being a generalist allows you to broaden your horizons so that your search space increases, so you're able to think about problems from multiple angles. I think that is like super important when you're in a data analytics role. Definitely, I agree. Um,
So uh, I
yeah.
would also want to add something on this.
Uh-huh.
So generally looking at it, People tend to believe that there's not a lot of money that is there when it comes to these generalist roles.
Mm-hmm.
But I know a certain someone in my company who's right now a VP. He's not even from a top college. Doesn't even have an
Okay.
MBA, and he's earning the top dollar at the company. He is prime example of what a generalist could actually achieve if he plays his cards right.
Right.
So he is in charge of the whole product,
Mm-hmm.
even though he is not someone who codes. He started his career as a business analyst. The
Okay.
interesting part.
Okay.
So he started his career as a business analyst. He started it back in Mu Sigma,
Okay.
and then eventually moved to Mintra, where he was also a business analyst and primarily dealt with data.
Mm-hmm.
But along the line, being a data analyst or a business analyst exposes you to a lot of verticals before, because you cannot possibly do an analysis until and unless you don't know what the channel is all about and
Right.
how the channel functions. You
Mm-hmm.
cannot present any root cause analysis. You cannot say why did the revenue go down yesterday unless and until you have an understanding of how each of the moving parts work in the system.
Correct.
So being a business analyst gives you access to all these verticals and gives you unlimited access to everything and anything about the technical parts of these. I don't know how to run a meta ad, but I definitely know how a meta ad brings revenue to my system.
Right.
Similarly, for each of these channels, I have that understanding. And what it is doing for me is, even though technically I work as a business analyst,
Mm-hmm.
I am getting trained as a generalist each day of my life
Correct.
for now. And I would say you might not get very high paying packages to begin with,
Mm-hmm.
but this is something that sets you up for big things in life if you want to go in this particular route. If you're not someone who's hardcore into tech, then this is a very doable option for you. This is something which keeps all the doors open for you. I right now can go back to tech if I want to. I can go to marketing roles if I want to, and or if I want to stick here, I can stick here and be a generalist.
Right. Right. I think keeping the doors open is also like a super important thing because I'm sure that most of us get really bored of things super fast, and then like it's always good to have a change in environment, right? So I think keeping your opportunities open and being able to seamlessly transition between roles is like super important in this age where, especially for startups, in fact, because as you said, people wear multiple hats in a startup, and then a generalist would probably add much more value to a startup. So yeah, definitely. I
No, it
definitely.
is. I slightly disagree to this, saying that startups have place for specialists and generalists, of course,
Mm-hmm.
because both go hand in hand. So there's this eternal debate about who has more value, a generalist or a specialist. So I
Mm-hmm.
would say both go hand in hand. Both are equally valuable and cannot be replaced by the other.
Right.
But early in your career, my personal take,
Mm-hmm.
someone can agree or disagree to it. If
Mm-hmm.
you are not like, if you don't want to retire in next 5 years or something, that's not your plan. If you want that, then of course go be a specialist. That's what would give you that kind of a gain.
Right.
But if you're playing the longer game and you're not sure as to what exactly you want to do in life,
Mm-hmm.
deterministically, it is always a very good idea to be a generalist. Try your hands at everything. By the next 5 years, you can choose to be a specialist. If not, you'll always have so many dimensions for you still open, and you're still in the early segment of your career, the first 3 to 4 years of your professional career. It is generally advisable. From If someone asks me, it is good to be a generalist.
Agreed. Agreed. I think that closes the. So you're currently continuing in Kapiva, right? I mean, it's been quite a while since you've been at Kapiva. So I hope you get to learn more and more there, and of course, keep sharing it with me, so that I can learn more as well. Um, we'll close this off like super quick in like the next 5 6 minutes. All I would like to ask you is, again, I still remember that you're also a very entrepreneurial kind of person. and you've tried those things out during our college days as well. So I'd like you to, give me a brief about what is your take on entrepreneurship, what is your take on startups, and are you planning to do anything in the upcoming future, and any ending notes for our audience?
Uh, as far as entrepreneurship is concerned, I think that's the single most important thing for me.
Okay.
Uh, or at least it was. Right now, I'll come to why it is not anymore, but that is something I grew up with. Like, as long as I have had the chance to, sort of explore this whole world of businesses, I've always wanted to be, let's say, a founder or an entrepreneur, however you want to put it. And one thing that I realized during my, because I did a bunch of things, I tried a bunch of things myself, and you were also a part of it, and I think you sort of know where this journey led us to, and what were the learnings specifically.
Yeah.
And I would say uh, it ultimately depends on your risk appetite. That's the bottom line. Like,
Right.
if you are someone who is starting from scratch, if you don't have a very stable financial condition back home,
Hmm.
then I would advise you against the turmoil that this whole entrepreneurial endeavor would put you in. Of course, if you are uh, daunting enough, if you can face it, then go for it. But for most of us, for general public, I would say, if you even if you have slight concerns back home, then it is generally not advisable for you to jump into entrepreneurship. I would not say that don't explore entrepreneurship, I would say don't jump into entrepreneurship, and there's a difference.
Right.
When I say that, the difference would be that be well read, of course, be aware what's going on, participate in as many as case competitions, as many as startup pitching competitions as you want, but don't sort of think that this is what is gonna maybe uh, be your bread and butter for the next 3 to 4 years, because that is rarely the case, because we know how it goes for most of the startups.
Right.
So should,
And it's not
you
going to
should
pay the
be a
bills. Like you shouldn't depend on it to pay the bills.
exactly. So I personally have, one of the key lessons that I've learned is that you can take some time if you have the risk appetite, because like you and I both have friends who are doing entrepreneurship, who are
Right.
pursuing entrepreneurship actively right now,
Right.
and they're doing great because they don't have something that that's keeping them from actually taking those risks. That is
Right.
great. But personally, for someone who has more of a humble background, I
Hmm.
would suggest it totally makes sense if you could you know possibly focus more towards building that skill set, getting an understanding of how all these systems work, and ultimately maybe down the line somewhere when you are more comfortable, you go for an entrepreneurial endeavor. For me
Hmm.
personally speaking, I would love to do it, but I don't think this is the right time to do it. So right now I'm gathering insights, and
Right.
see, my experience has taught me how important is it right now to focus all these things I've talked about, CAC to LTV ratio, how marketing funnels work. I had
Hmm.
zero clue about it, and I went to build a company. Was it even a possibility for me to build a company without knowing the basic maths of being profitable?
Right.
Now I know these things, and I know there's much more for me to learn. Once I am done with that, maybe 5 to 6 years down the line, I'll be in a better position to have a shot at entrepreneurship. So that's my take on it.
Right. And like, what do you think about networking? Where do you think networking fits in, real quick, in this grand scheme of things? Where, let's say you're an entrepreneur, you're trying to, um, you know, reach out to people, get specific skill sets on board. Do you think networking helps, and how much of a help is it? Should we focus a lot on it? Not so much. What's your take on that?
I think it's very important. Like maybe networking, you can call networking as bread and butter of entrepreneurship because the more people you know, the more chances you'll get in life. That's hands down one single thing which is more important than actually working on your skills. Sometimes, like this is a very controversial statement when I say this, but sometimes it is more important than working on your skills
Right.
because you know the kind of people determines what kind of opportunities you will get, and once you have the opportunity you can even potentially think about developing a particular skill to fit into that shoe,
Correct.
because otherwise as talented as you can be, you might not ever get a chance to be uh, using those talents that you have acquired over time. So I think networking is hands down the most important thing,
Yeah.
to the point that my current boss has got his job because he used to play football with the investors of this company.
Interesting. Super interesting. I mean, if I had to draw like real life sort of parallel on this, I would probably say that if you have larger the fishing net, more the number of fishes you can catch, provided you're at the right place at the right time. So I think that sort of summarizes as to what networking is, and where exactly does it come into action in an entrepreneur's journey. Would you agree with that?
Exactly. Yeah, definitely. Like, the more number of opportunities, the more number of things you can try. The more you try, the more you fail. The more you fail, the closer you are to success.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Well, then with that, I think it's time to wrap up this podcast. Ashutosh, you've been a pleasure to talk to, and you're always a pleasure to talk to. Always so much to learn from you, and thank you for giving us so much of your time, and especially on Christmas. So I'm sorry I had to take all that time on Christmas, but thanks a ton, bro.
Thank you so much, Ansh. It has been a journey that I've been through over last 1.5 years, and I think there's a lot of things that I've learned. I have more to learn, but as long as I learn good things, I think I'm doing great. And I'm always happy to share new things, new discoveries with everyone out there, because at the end of the day, it's all a value chain, and to get value, you need to give value.
Correct. Completely agreed, bro. Well, then, till next time, hopefully, we'll have more podcast sessions in the future with you. Till then, I think let's bid farewell to our audience and let's call it a day, man.
Thank you, everyone.